Incredible. She's incredible. Thank you for profiling her work. An incredible technologist who's creating these underground networks to connect young activists throughout the Middle East. Fascinating work this young
Very brave person.
Very brave. You will rarely see her picture in public because it's too dangerous to publish her picture. But again, thank you for publicizing her. So it's really interesting. There was a very controversial article in the New Yorker written by Malcolm Gladwell now about 4 years ago. I think he wrote it in like 2010. If you haven't read it, read it. It's called Small Change. And basically, he got hammered, got slammed, when he basically said, you know, it was around the time of the Arab Spring, and everybody's saying, oh my gosh, social media has fueled this revolution. And he basically said, you know what, social media is good for collaboration, coordination, diffusing information, but it develops weak ties. And weak ties never sustain a social movement. Until you get to the level of crafting very deep ties, like those that were created and nurtured and mentored through the civil rights movement, you're never going to get to sustainable change. And an example in this article that he uses that I love is like in 1960, when those 4 African-American young men sat down at the Woolworths counter in Greensboro, North Carolina. You look at how did those 4 kids end up there? Well, they had all 4 gone to high school together. 2 of them were roommates at A&T College in Greensboro. The other 2 lived a couple floors above or below, and had spent years talking about the movement, how they were scared, how they were worried, but it was only because they had those personal ties, those connections that allowed them to walk through the fear and keep doing it. That's the only way you're going to move the needle on this stuff. You're not going to do it through someone you tweeted 10 minutes ago. That's a weak tie. You're not going to do it to some random Facebook friend. And until these current day movements learn how to better harness technology and social media to be the first step in developing these deeper ties, not happening. And I think at the time he took major flack for that, but I have to say I think his hypothesis has been borne out. So it's about how do you start with some of those tools, but then do some of the old school hierarchical organizing, the hand-to-hand work, the hand-to-hand combat that goes with these deep, hard social change movements. That's when the real change comes. So that's what I meant.
Thank you.
We have time for one more question over there.
Hi, I'm Devika Kumar, a sophomore at Princeton Day School High School in New Jersey. I'm part of 2 organizations. One is My Name, My Story, and that's a student-led social leadership organization that inspires empathy, well, basically inspired empathy across communities. And the other is Global Success Foundation, and that reaches out to youth in India and teaches them people skills so that they can prepare themselves for jobs and interviews. And essentially, I was wondering how I can spread the message of social entrepreneurship on my sort of pre-college, high school level.
Bravo. Well, congratulations to you. I did How did you end up finding out about this conference, and how did you end up here?
Well, the headquarters of My Name, My Story out in California reached out to me and told me about this wonderful conference in Boston, so I just took a flight up here.
Wonderful, wonderful. So that gives me incredible hope that this work has penetrated your generation. So I mean, if you polled everybody else around the country, most people don't have a clue what social entrepreneurship is. It's a term that polls terribly. People don't get it. It makes no sense. So in some ways, your job is to be a living example of what social entrepreneurship means and why it matters to you. So first and foremost, you must be an educator to your broader community. So I would hope when you get back to school, can you set up an assembly? Can you do a brown bag lunch? Tell folks at your school what you learned, how you thought about it, and actually really push your high school to do more programming around social entrepreneurship in the way that college students and graduate students have become customers, forcing the universities to create classes, to create clubs, to provide resources. You have to start doing that now. That would be wonderful. And then I don't even think it's too early to figure out sort of what kind of after-school volunteer activities, what sort of summer opportunities you can engage in. And I think we're in this interesting moment when, again, I'm too old for this, but maybe the college students who all had service requirements in high school, do you have to do service hours?
Yeah, 50 community service hours.
Wonderful. So I think service is a component of social change, but only a component. They're not synonymous. So also your role explaining the difference between service, which can often ignite someone's social justice nerve and make them understand, oh, there's an equity, why is that? It's not necessarily that it's the person's fault, there's some structural factors, but then what's the next step in moving beyond service to change, to social change? And you being that bridge, helping people make that leap from service to social change and social justice and social enterprise, I think really, really, really important. And make sure you tell your parents all about it, so they can tell their friends and sort of get an intergenerational conversation going. But congratulations and bravo for you for coming. Great.
Thank you, Shara. We're so pleased that you're able to make it and join us tonight. Good morning. My name is Ivy So, and with my colleagues, Caitlin Guzman-Hartman and Julie McLaughlin, and I are very pleased to present to you the honorees of this year's SECON Social Impact Award on behalf of the conference leadership team. As a new feature of this year's conference, we have chosen to honor 2 exemplary individuals with our inaugural Social Impact Award. This recognition highlights leaders who have especially strong track records of providing innovative and impactful change in the social enterprise space. Hello, are you all as excited as we are? Will you pretend for me?
We are thrilled to present the first award to a young innovator who turned obstacle into opportunity, Taylor Downs. When Taylor graduated college, he joined the team of a South Africa-based nonprofit focused on HIV prevention. But he and his teammates often found they were distracted by trying to track data, and that was really difficult. So they designed an easy-to-use data management tool, great for monitoring performance, and clutch when you're cranking out donor reports. Taylor could see the big picture. Data management wasn't just a challenge for his nonprofit, it's a challenge for a lot of them. And so Vera Solutions was born. We honor him here today for his problem-solving skills and his big picture thinking, for turning his struggles on the ground into a way to help the rest of us with our own. Taylor Downs, please accept the first ever Harvard SECON Social Impact Award.
Thank you. This is beautiful. I'm going to leave it there. Draw attention away from me and towards the yeah. So this is incredibly exciting to be here. I'm honored to be in the presence of so many amazing folks. I think it's sort of strange, sort of funny to be getting this award, but I think it also does fit. To be receiving it at this conference, the 15th annual and the first annual award, because my work and the work that we do at Vera is actually just about this. It's about helping amazing social entrepreneurs, nonprofit organizations, government agencies sort of further their work. So in that sense, thank you to all of you for doing amazing things and for having incredible passions and visions. And for allowing us to work with you to make them better. So the conference is about reflecting on the last 15 years and also looking forward. And that also is really sort of meaningful for me. I've been with Vera for going on 4 years now. And this is a really important moment for us where we're both reflecting on what we've done in the last 4 years. But also looking forward, and it's cool that this is happening at Harvard and in association with the Kennedy School, because one of my co-founders is, we're now finally losing Karti to the Harvard Kennedy School. He's thrilled to, after having deferred year after year to keep working with Vera to grow us, he's now going back to school. So that's cool. I want to say just a really quick thanks to, obviously, to all of our clients and the people who actually make our work impactful. But then a huge thanks, obviously, to Cheryl and Declan Green. and to Dustra, and to the Salesforce Foundation, and a number of the folks who've been really instrumental in spreading our work. So I'll take 2 minutes to tell you about where Vera's come from and what it is that we do, and then tell you about sort of the looking forward piece, the next thing that we're doing that I'm really excited to share with you guys about. I've not really shared it publicly with anyone yet, so I'm excited to have this opportunity, to have this microphone, quite literally. Yeah, and this, right? That just amplifies the... So I worked in Southern Africa, Southern and Eastern Africa, doing HIV prevention programs, and everywhere I go, I meet really just smart, impassioned people, and they say, Taylor, I know you work on monitoring and evaluation and impact evaluation, and come see all of our data, just check out all of these great data. And I'd say, okay, this will be fun. And I remember in Morogoro, has anyone worked in Tanzania or from Tanzania? Anyone know Morogoro? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Great. So in Morogoro, working with an incredible organization. I'll leave out the name. And the monitoring evaluation officer said, hey, let me show you all these data. And he walked me down a hall and into a room, and he sort of threw open the door of the room and said, look at all of this just incredible information we've captured. And he showed me stacks of manila file folders with rubber bands. You know what I'm talking about? Like bursting at the seams, maybe 5 feet off the ground, like, I don't know, reams and reams of paper. And sure enough, there was a computer with a tarp over it so it didn't get dusty. And it was like unplugged and wrapped up. And we talked about it. And it's funny you mentioned, gathering data is fantastic for further and funding efforts, right? And we talked about it, and sure enough, these guys, like, once a year, they would analyze all this information, and they would prepare a really nice PDF report, and they'd send it out to the funders. But that data for the rest of the year wasn't doing anything. It was dead data. All it was used for was to prove to a donor, not to improve what the organization was doing. And the work that we've done with some of these absolutely amazing, so sorry, I'm jumping ahead. This happened time and time again. All of these NGOs and social businesses were spending a lot of time and a lot of money capturing data, and they weren't using it for anything. It was a waste. And we worked with the folks at Grassroots Soccer to develop a system that breathed some life into it. It made the capture of information very simple, and using a cloud database, it would automate the analysis and then distribute that data back to the individuals who are making decisions at the organization. So it created a really cool culture change. It created almost a mentality of criticism, but of self-criticism. All of a sudden you were doing monitoring and evaluation so that you could improve, not so you could satisfy the requirements of a donor or a funder. And this made it not feel like homework anymore. People were excited to see their names up on the wall, to see a leaderboard, to see if they were out achieving their buddy at whether it was preventing HIV infections or distributing toilets across the slums of Nairobi or teaching 3 million kids to read in India. So it's always been about creating a culture change and changing the way we think about monitoring and evaluation, the way we think about capturing data, why we're doing it. Don't do it for the funders, do it for yourself because you want to achieve your mission and you want to do it better. So that's Vera. We've now grown to work with about 100 clients in roughly 40 countries around the world. We work with some big funders like the Global Fund in Geneva and Gavi. We work with INGOs like PATH and Oxfam. We also work with social enterprises, really incredible social enterprises. We work with some that have sort of gone to scale, like D-Light, and also those that are in the process of this amazing scaling up. And a lot of these have actually been Echoing Green partners and fellows like Sanergy and MyAgro and Generation Citizen. Scott is somewhere, or is talking tomorrow at least. Yeah, so it's been wonderful. And the looking forward piece, that's where I was going to tie this back at the end. The looking forward piece is Carty's going back to school. And actually, over the next few months, we're starting a new initiative. So we're spinning off a nonprofit organization called the Open Lab, and it's going to focus on nonprofit application development. So we'll actually be trying to dig deeper with all of you guys and sort of learn more about our customers, learn more about our clients, and then create content that's free and give it away and make it a little bit easier to implement technology in a development setting. And this is just a quick plug for the session. Danny Norden, who's an expert in Drupal and user experiences, helping us do a really cool session tomorrow where we think about how can you take sort of a consulting problem and an issue of, all right, there's an individual organization that faces this challenge and will solve it. How do you take that and how do you sort of think massive with the scale? How do you turn that into a product? And this is obviously a common issue in for-profit technology companies. A little bit less common when the end goal isn't profit, when you're sort of sealing off that potential. But it's still really exciting because we're looking at how you can sort of turn the volume up and have an impact at a scale that would be absolutely impossible did you actually have to engage with each customer, each client. So that's all. Thank you so much for Yeah, okay, cool. I wasn't worried if I rambled too long.
No, we want to hear more.
Okay, well...
No, I'll help you out here.
Yeah.
We're going to invite a couple people up to ask some questions now if they'd like, just like we've done during the keynote. We'll only have time for a couple, so make them good. Rush the mic.
Yes. Question. Thank you.
I am Valerie, I'm also from Harvard College. And
Valerie?
Yeah, Valerie. And fortunately, I'm the jumper, so I already done my business in China is social enterprise and common trainings, especially helps your landless peasants. And we achieved like 1.9 million and in fact thousands of farmers last year. And the things like, because I doing my job, I share a lot of my stories of the folks that are around me. And I find a lot of your friends, actually they have this idea, a lot of great brilliant idea about the problems, social problems in developing country, like China, Seychelles, African, but they are hesitant to do that. They're hesitant to go there because like they're afraid that, okay, probably just I myself think there's a problem there, the people have no idea actually that's the problem, or the value actually we judge that is different. And also the definition of social enterprise also differently in different cultural level. So I mean, my question is like, how do you think of this, or how you jump out of this saying, oh, I should go there. The people there actually think the same as me. Actually, I should do that. So yeah, it's like very geographies. Yeah, problem with social enterprise. How should that go? Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I think the problem of sort of like how to jump or how to go is that what you're curious about?
Yeah, I mean, you're afraid that the people, I mean, probably the problem you face is more like people have the same idea, but there's a lot of how it's like human rights, this kind of issue. Actually, people have different idea in different place. So how do we should judge on these questions? Should we like go for that? If I think there's a problem in the local area, I should go for that, or I should saying, probably I should let my idea, let native peoples to do that, find some local people instead. Yeah.
Well, I think that I think thinking of that as a problem presupposes that part of the drive is to sort of create a new enterprise, right? And if I go back, connect maybe to what Cheryl was talking about earlier, that actually we need, not everyone needs to start a new organization, and it also, so it may be the case that your idea is similar, or you can apply your idea only in sort of a smaller region. But it's still incredibly valuable, and whether you're adding that to sort of the existing environment, and whether you're contributing to existing organizations, or just starting a new organization that won't necessarily be designed to scale across because it is focused on one particular sector, one particular region, that's fantastic. And I think it's only a reason to hold back if the objective is sort of organizational growth for the sake of organizational growth. But if the objective is, and it sounds like, you know, if you have a strong idea and you have a strong passion, it sounds like the objective is not to grow an organization, the objective is to solve a social problem. And there, it almost doesn't matter if it's, you know, you driving the bus or you know, pushing along from the side. So long as you're solving the problem, you're absolutely succeeding. Did that get it a bit?
Yeah. And we encourage people like go to your environment that is really unfamiliar with, to like dig deep down to do the social enterprise movement if they're really unfamiliar with the environment.
I would say plug in. Just absolutely go for it. Get stuck in. Bring that sort of how can I help you mentality to like starting an organization.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You mentioned doing some HIV-related work
Yeah.
overseas and a lot of that sort of charity or mission-related stuff. So I know that kind of work can sort of open you up to finding a passion or something that you really feel like motivates you and drives you. So I am sort of at this point where I'm a sophomore in college, and this is the point where I have some opportunities to, you know, travel abroad or do some work that's sort of related, and I'm just wondering what advice you might have for really opening yourself up to those opportunities.
Go. Sorry, opening yourself up
and really capitalizing on it and figuring out how you can weave those opportunities into not just a beautiful experience that you look back on as being memorable, but something that really drives you in your life going forward.
I would say, well, first, excitedly go for it, do it. Have objectives going into it, right? And then be completely willing to trash them, to scrap them 100%, right? So absolutely sort of set an agenda for yourself, right? Because you want to, what incredible opportunities, right? That you're studying undergrad, you have the chance to go engage with you know, sort of development work abroad or domestically. That's actually what. So I was a religion major as an undergrad, and I haven't done graduate school. Maybe one day I'll be lucky enough to follow Karti to Harvard. I was a religion major as an undergrad, and it was going to India to study Buddhism that actually first opened my eyes to like, all right, I need to engage with the development space, and I had no sense whatsoever that when I went sort of on this program that I was going to be engaging with the local community or that I was going to be thinking about inequality and sort of the problem of lack of access to like basic human services. I was going to live with a Tibetan refugee community, almost to be isolated from India, and to study Buddhism, and that was my objective. And my goal was to come back and be, you know, the best Buddhist studies scholar that Amherst had ever seen. And I completely, it was a wash when it came to. I wrote a terrible paper, and I really thank goodness you guys must not take into account like undergraduate GPA. So I had to finish because I had to get a major in something, but then spending 5 months abroad had me pivot completely, and I was all of a sudden taking like summer courses, and well, a lot of shifting. I decided I wanted to be a doctor. That didn't work out either. but I think the advice would be like, have a clear agenda so you can like maximize the opportunity and understand how lucky you are that you have this chance in front of you, but then be open and be completely willing to just scrap it and do what drives you. Because you can't waste too many opportunities where you get sort of like that pull, right? And that doesn't always happen, so you have to be very aware to that. And when you get the pull, go for it, because you don't know how many times you'll get that pull.
Thank you, and congratulations on your award.
Thank you so much, Taylor. I encourage you guys to come seek him out afterwards and then put him up for y'all to find him and continue asking questions. Jillian?
Thank you, Taylor. My name is Jillian McLaughlin, and on behalf of the Social Enterprise Conference Leadership Team, I am very pleased to introduce our second Social Impact Award honoree, Nancy Berry. Nancy has devoted her entire career to building an inclusive economy. During her tenure at the World Bank, she recognized the potential of microfinance to create an entire generation of entrepreneurs in the poorest regions of the world. Nancy helped nurture microfinance institutions at their inception, and she continued to innovate as the industry matured. As the head of the Women's World Banking Network, she supported millions of female entrepreneurs as they lifted themselves and their families out of poverty. And then in 2006, Nancy founded Enterprise Solutions to Poverty, which engages corporations, MBA programs, and entrepreneurs to create businesses for the base of the pyramid. She recognizes that to have an inclusive economy, we need to include everybody in finding solutions. Her commitment to expanding economic opportunity, her creativity, and her extraordinary success have earned her this year's Social Impact Award, and we couldn't be happier to give it to her.
I guess I'll put mine on just like Taylor. I think I got the second one, Taylor. You got the first. But we're not competitive, the alums of Harvard Business School. Anyway, I am honored to be in this group. I first want to salute, celebrate, and hug Cheryl for the incredible work that she does with Echoing Green in identifying, backing, and nurturing social entrepreneurs such as Taylor. And I have the honor of knowing, as my mentees, many other great Echoing Green fellows. I was asked, I'm very excited that this is the first award that my not-so-new organization has received. When I was president of Women's World Banking, we got tons of awards, so I'm very excited about that. And I've been asked to talk about enterprise solutions to poverty. But before getting to that, I hope you will indulge me. I've been canvassing my table to see if I'm the oldest person in the room. Jeff, you are 6 months younger than I am. I turned 65 in August, and I think you just turned 64. And I just realized that I am over 4 times the age of Devika, our 15-year-old high school student. And so hopefully age brings some wisdom. So what I'd like to do as we reflect upon the past, present, and future is to reflect on some of the past, because I think I have a lot more of that than many of you. So let me just give you a couple of key dates. 40 years ago, I was finishing my first year at Harvard Business School. That was a year when women had just hit the mark of 10% of the class. We also had 10% international students. Nobody was talking about social enterprise, and it was very much the term making a difference in our world would have been understood in a very narrow business way. 20 years ago, a guy named Jim Austin, how many of you have ever heard of Jim Austin? So this is a very shocking fact. I am going to build personally a statue to Jim Austin. Jim Austin actually taught me when I was at Harvard Business School. Little did I realize he was just a few years older than I was. So even though I had a fairly alienating time when I was at HBS, very productive but slightly alienating, there were 2 professors that were critically important in my life and remain so. One was a guy named Ray Goldberg, who is now about 87 years old, and he invented agribusiness. And I will come back to him. And the other was Jim Austin, who looked like a cross between a rat and Jesus Christ. And was one of the most charismatic professors at Harvard Business School. I thought I was deeply bonded with the guy before I took his class on international agribusiness. because we both were into development. But he managed to call on me 2 days in a row to start the case, and I was unprepared both times. But I got an E in the class. Yeah, he got me serious. But Jim went on 20 years ago to do a year sabbatical with my organization, Women's Rural Banking. He and his wife spent a year teaching governance to these young women-led microfinance institutions around the world. And he came back and started the Social Enterprise Initiative at Harvard Business School, which I believe was the first. There may be a couple that vie for who is the first. And he started it with Cash Rangan. And one of the questions talked about whether there was a parallel movement, and even mentioned devolution. I'll come back to that at the very end in talking about Kenya. But when Jim Austin created Social Enterprise at Harvard Business School, he basically set out, what do you call it? A column or from right to left. So a spectrum. Thank you very much, Jeff. See, old people can't think. And so on the most conservative side of social enterprise was corporations giving money to the United Way. And on the other extreme of the spectrum was companies actually tilting their for-profit business model in the direction of inclusive business and inclusive finance. So I joined the board of the Social Enterprise Initiative 20 years ago and have been on it up until 1 year ago when they decided that they needed good governance, so they kicked off some of the old people, but have told me they're inviting me back. And it is, every time I went during the first 10, 15 years, I found I got radicalized because there tended to be a focus falling back on philanthropy as a way of thinking about it, falling back on not-for-profits as a way of thinking about it, and falling back on, and this is my caution to all of you, falling off on NGO-like social enterprises. And by NGO-like social enterprises, I mean for-profit or not-for-profit organizations that are basically not running themselves as a business, that have no vision or capabilities to achieve substantial scale, do not have a financing plan, an execution plan. Not that you need to have everything in place when you start, but this has got to be more than a good idea and good intentions. And so when 10 years ago, I was asked to speak along with two other people, Tom Tierney and Mark Moore, on what should be the next 10 years of social enterprise at Harvard Business School. And I said, basically in the first 10 years, you've changed the school, which they did. I mean, now if you look at what happens and even the color of the skin of each of you, I know you're not all from HBS, but a similar phenomena has happened at other campuses. You come here because you want to make a difference in the world. So I said, you've changed the school, in the next 10 years you have to change the world. And what that means is HBS needs to take on global poverty as part of its agenda. And by global poverty, what is the solution to poverty? It's basically poor people earning more money. How do poor people earn more money? By being connected to the larger economy, whether it be in agriculture, agribusiness, whether it be an Avon lady, whether it be financial services, and that's basically what Enterprise Solutions to Poverty is all about. And so today you have 200 second years at HBS that take business at the base of the pyramid, which is hardcore business. It's not just startup social enterprises. It is really saying, with business approaches, on a for-profit basis, we can solve some of the world's most intractable problems. So, as using my gray hair, which is dyed, I really have only two things I want to share with you, and they both resonate very much with the words of Cheryl. One is take risks, and take risks of a particular kind. Take risks that will allow you to learn how to lead. And that means basically do not go into consulting, and probably do not go into investment banking or private equity. So, as Cheryl said, like 90% of you want to change the world, 20% of you select something going out of business school that is directly, whether it's for-profit, not-for-profit, startup, big company, that is actually directed at changing the world. And the reasons are bizarre. I spoke this week to a group of joint Kennedy Harvard Business School students, my favorite group, because they're doing it all. And basically, it was the professor, Joe Bauer, asked me to talk about the arc of my career. So the first was, when I was at Harvard Business School, I worked for McKinsey. But I got to work for McKinsey in Tanzania on how to make socialist villages economically viable. So the first risk I took was jumping on a freighter to Peru after Stanford with no job at the other end. And I lived in the slums, no water, sewage, and light. At age 21, I created water, sewage, and light for a city of 250,000 people with an all-Peruvian team. I also started a bunch of small enterprises with an all-Peruvian team. And in the course of that, I figured out that, number one, poor people were much smarter than I was at doing more with less. So that basic respect as you move up and work in the World Bank or wherever, I got it by living in their neighborhood. And the second thing I learned is there were a lot of smart Peruvians that could do what I was doing. So it became my job to study in Spanish for the GMAT and go to Harvard Business School. But after I worked for McKinsey, which was a great experience in learning how to think and all of that good stuff, I got an offer to work at any office of McKinsey in the world. And I went through their list of clients. I wanted to work 14 hours a day, but I could not get motivated to work 14 hours a day to help Xerox make more money. I mean, it's intellectually stimulating, but it does not touch on my second point, which is which is identical to Cheryl's point, which is you have to stay connected with your passion. You have to stay connected with purpose, and you have to stay connected with each other. I would say at my stage of life, one of the biggest thrills of my life is that 3 women that work for me at Women's World Banking now run their own organizations. And the affiliates of Women's World Banking in Colombia and Kenya and India are all involved in enterprise solutions to poverty. So this will help you if you stay connected to passion, purpose, and each other, including poor people, as empathy. It will help you avoid the biggest single risk of being a Harvard graduate, and that is misplaced arrogance. And I think you will discover in life that all arrogance is misplaced. So another big risk I took is at one point, 15 years into the World Bank, I had pioneered the World Bank's work on small enterprise, grew it to a portfolio of $3 billion. I ran industry, trade, and finance globally. We participated in the whole industrial modernization of India under Rajiv Gandhi. And then I decided to leave the World Bank to join Women's World Banking, which I had been on the board since I was 30. I was now 40. And everyone at the World Bank thought I was nuts because I was considered to be the most powerful person in the middle of the World Bank. And I was already in management, etc. But I saw that small organizations can make a big difference. But this Women's World Banking at the time had unbelievable leaders from Africa, Asia, and Latin America, but it only had 20,000 clients. It had a great philosophy and believing in local leaders, local control, lateral learning, transformational people and processes, but it really could not manage its way out of a paper bag. And that's why I think experience matters. So by the time I hit Women's World Banking, I had drunk the Kool-Aid in terms of the philosophy, but I was able to bring some skills in terms of how to build the programs that could both help the affiliates grow, these women-led organizations that had on average 500 clients. Small is not beautiful. Big problems require big solutions. And so these women-led organizations built the standards for the entire microfinance industry, and by standards I mean of efficiency, of outreach, of profitability. We went on to mobilize mainstream banks for micro or inclusive finance. We reshaped entire financial systems in favor of the poor and the people that serve them. And so now we come to ESP. After 16 years at Women's World Banking, it always stuck in my craw that finance was not enough. And a very good friend of mine, Jennifer Ruria from Kenya, who runs Kenya Women's Finance Trust, which now has 700,000 clients, said at a big conference that we put on in Kenya with 7 countries participating, she said, if I'm a poor woman farmer, chances are I should not take out a loan. So everybody goes, how could the queen of microfinance of Africa say a poor woman farmer should not take out a loan? And basically what Jennifer said is, if I'm a poor woman farmer in Kenya producing for subsistence, and I get a loan, and I don't get access to better inputs, better advice, and most importantly, markets, I will just be increasing my debt without increasing my income and assets. So what ESP is all about is saying big problems require big solutions, that the solutions to poverty are not going to come from NGOs, which normally do not have the executing capacity. It's not going to come from governments just doling out a little bit of money to poor people. It's going to come from private companies in things like agribusiness and financial institutions that tilt their business model not toward CSR, but maintaining profitability, and say, we are going to solve the problems of the poor. So let me give you an example. We now work with over 200 leading companies in India, China, Mexico, Colombia, Peru, and Kenya. And we have created a couple of years ago an action platform to create shared value in agribusiness with 70 companies and banks, and the objective is to create shared value with 20 million farmers by 2020. And at the core of that is one company called Jane Irrigation. Have any of you done a case on Jane Irrigation? It's kind of a very cool case. But the father, who is the same age as Ray Goldberg, he was a poor guy living in a village, smart enough to make it to college. He came back to his mom and said, I've been offered a job with the civil service. And his mom, who had a 5th grade education, said, anybody can work for the government. Anybody can actually start an enterprise and take care of their family. But why don't you spend your life worrying about poor farmers and water conservation? So he has proceeded to create $1 billion company which has revolutionized drip irrigation for small farmers, a whole systemic approach. And their mantra is, if we make poor farmers rich, they put it nicer than I do. They say, if we help small farmers prosper, we will do well as a company. And that, along with several other leading companies in India, has created a whole ripple effect. And at that meeting to launch the action platform in 2012 was Nitin Noria, Ray Goldberg, and Kash Rangan. And they, not only did they have a powerful impact on launching it, but you could see with Nitin, who kind of thinks I'm crazy sometimes, like most people, that this is the future of market capitalism. And we have to take a longer term view. We have to look at a broader set of stakeholders. And we have to do it so it makes money so that it can actually not just survive, but grow. So I'm closing out now because I see people kind of hovering very gently. And I just want to tell you one story, and that is when I had my 25th anniversary, or what do they call them? At Harvard Business School, a reunion. They invited 5 CEOs to speak, and the other were corporate CEOs and men. And they surprised us by asking us the same questions they asked us when we applied to Harvard Business School. So, what is your biggest success, your biggest failure? And the final was, what do you want to do in the next 20 years? And I was at the end of this round robin. And every single one of these CEOs said one or of 2 things, or a combination. One was, I want to play more golf. So we're all 50-something at that point. Or I want to find meaning and purpose in my life. So I was able to say, I can't really help you with your golf, but if you want meaning and purpose, come to Mama.
About Nancy, but her speech was so comprehensive that we're going to allow you to ask her questions individually because I think she answered me. Can we give her another round of applause? My colleague Mariama Kabia and Debbie Magnesi.
Good afternoon. My name is Mariama Kabia.
And I'm Debbie Magnesi, and we are 2 of your conference co-chairs.
We are happy that you could join us for SECON2014. So the programming today continues next door at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, where you can expect to take a closer look at reflecting on the past and shaping the future of social enterprise.
What makes SECON 2014 so unique is your role in shaping the conference. Today, this takes the form of lending your voice to the discussions on social enterprise.
Debates such as shared value, is it real, and the role of social enterprises in fixing the U.S. education system allow you to grapple with challenging topics in the field. Today at 3 p.m., we have 2 limited seating sessions. First of which is IDEO's Realizing Innovation workshop, and the second is the HBS case on Unilever. Both are completely subscribed, so if you've had a successful, or if you've successfully signed up for these sessions, then you should attend those sessions at that time.
Additionally, there are opportunities to connect with one another on multiple levels. Speed networking is a great forum for getting to know your fellow attendees, students, practitioners, and academics alike. Continue your networking after hours with other conference attendees at the Beat Hotel this evening.
Throughout the day, be sure to engage with SECON online. Tweet about the conference using our Twitter handle at SEImpact and hashtag SECON2014. More information about this can be found in your welcome packets. Also, throughout the day, ValueWeb, as you can see over there, will be scribing the conference, and they create visuals that really capture the spirit of the conference, so I urge you to take a look. Additionally, right outside, we have an exhibit of the Pitch for Change semifinalists, and we have a great cohort of semifinalists this year, so I again urge you to take a look at what they've come up with to change the world.
It is now time for you to make your way to the Kennedy School, where lunch will be served. You will have 30 minutes for the transition, and we recommend that you pick up your lunch in the forum and bring it to your first session so that you can ensure a seat. Sessions will begin promptly at 1:15. If you have any questions regarding how to get to the Kennedy School, just ask one of our friendly SECON volunteers in blue shirts. They will gladly help you.
Again, welcome and enjoy SECON 2014.